The following presentation is a production of Ride the Wave Media.
So how did the pop-up show go, dude? I'm sorry I missed it, but that looked amazing.
Oh my God. It was so much fun. And I feel stupid proud of how well it turned out. Cause we sold out. I had 69 tickets that I could sell because Biscotts, where it was at, which is this really great
your number. That wasn't the number you decided.
That was the number that they gave me. And I was like, I have to, I have to use this number. What I want to do, I wasn't able to do it for this one, but what I want to do for future shows is get like a baseball cap that says 69 and it's like blinged out, like super bling, like rhinestones, like a crown and shit. And then whoever buys the 69th ticket, I'll give it to them to wear at the show. And then they just get to wear that 69 hat.
The best. I'm so here for that. Yeah.
It's going to be so fun. We sold all tickets and then we sold one more because there was this guy here in Daybreak who was like, hey, I want to come. I want to bring my girlfriend. I can't buy 2 tickets. And so I was like, yeah, just come and like Venmo me. And we had like coffee. We had 3 baristas who were like making people coffee and treats and like snacks through the entire thing. It got annoying like one time when my friend DeLeon was up because someone ordered a smoothie. Just like running in the background as he's like trying to talk about what it's like to be Black in Utah. And I'm like, that's a pretty great analogy.
Tracks.
But it was so much fun. And what was cool too about it is, there were a number of kind of really magical moments. So one of the moments was I'm sitting in the back and I'm watching this this packed room, right? There's people going back on both sides of Biscotts. The scenery, like Biscotts is such a beautiful building. And so the view is very pretty to see. Like the lights are sparkling, people are laughing, they're getting drinks. And then I look in the back and I see the owner of Biscotts, and the owner and I had met probably 6 months ago at a networking meeting. And we talked a little bit about sort of a shared desire to have a nightlife in Daybreak, right? To have places where people could go outside with other humans in Daybreak at night. Because right now there's like the break is the place, and that's it.
One option.
There's one singular option. And the break is great for what it is, but it's just that one thing, right?
Right.
And so we were kind of talking about that, and he had shared that he really wanted Biscotts to be a hub for that he wanted, like he was imagining bringing in like shows, he was imagining bringing in like a mocktails, people to like make mocktails and stuff, so that just because he wanted people kind of out. And I love that because I love Biscotts. And so we were just kind of chatting about it. And I was like, I could do a comedy show there. And then fast forward 6 months later and it's happening. Right. And he's there and he's filming. He's got a big smile on his face. He's like, and so it was cool to sort of be like, I was in the middle of a dream for me, of kind of a dream come true for me. Yeah. And then I looked over and it was also that for someone else. And I had heard that him. Yeah. It was such a really lovely moment.
Yeah.
And, afterwards, I talked to a whole bunch of people. Everyone was super happy. There was one of my friends that was there, which I was a little bit concerned about because this gentleman he's like an older grandpa. I'm pretty sure I don't know this because I've never asked him, but I'm pretty sure that he's an active Mormon, and, which generally is not my vibe. That's generally people who are like that. They don't vibe with me. They don't love my stuff.
Yeah.
And, but I've kind of been developing a relationship with this gentleman for a number of weeks, sort of, that is just because we are mutually humans and we both have a sense of humor. And I think he's funny. And if I think you're funny, I don't really care anything else about you. That's like the one, if you make me laugh, I don't care.
Yeah.
You can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
Because you make me laugh. And so he showed up. He brought cakes for the comics. He was like chatting up all the comics afterwards. He's like, "You guys were so good. This was so amazing." Afterwards on Facebook, he left me a comment on my post that said, he was like, "I've been to the Improv and this Comedy Store in LA, and the lineup that Ben brought in was as good or better than that."
Wow.
And I was like, hell yeah. Which was another cool thing about it, was that I was able to, this was a show that wasn't about me, because the show that you're coming to this weekend is very egotistical, right?
Perfect.
It's all about me.
With that ego, let's go.
I'm just like, everyone come and listen to me talk about myself for an hour, right?
Love
And I love that. It's so great. It's so much fun. But what I wanted to do with this is I wanted this thing that I'm doing in Daybreak to be to just be something that was a little bit bigger than me, so that it was a vibrant and a new experience every time. Right? Where I'm kind of hosting it, I can kind of be there and kind of provide this like stable presence. And then I'll always get some time to do a little bit of stuff. So I have that option. But I'm really, the purpose of it was to go and find really great talent and bring it and sort of present it to Daybreak. Because I think that Daybreak I think a lot of people in Daybreak have really refined taste. That's why we live here, is we like things to be high quality. We like things to look beautiful. We really like to enjoy the experience of life. And we have so many fabulous local comedians here in Utah who are, who you'll never really get to see do longer than like 3 minutes or 5 minutes, because they don't quite have an hour and they don't quite have enough of a pull to be doing a regular hour frequently, but they can murder for 20 minutes.
Okay.
Right. And so I was able to kind of grab some of them and bring them down. And that, I think that's going to allow me. So this is kind of what I want to announce so announcing here on this podcast is that's going to become Nitebreak comedy.
Yeah.
Because I'm barred from calling this thing Daybreak, because Daybreak is trademarked and I cannot say it. Well, I can say it, but I can't put it on flyers and call my thing it, which is fair. I didn't invent the name Daybreak. They didn't either, but it's fair. It's fine. They got the paper. Fair. Nitebreak is actually better because it's at night. And it's not trademarked, and it's funny. So all those three things are really great. And then the last thing that I want to do is sort of maybe kind of introduce you, my friend, and kind of shift the tone of this podcast. Is I want to just thank you, because when I launched this comedy night was a bit of a mad idea, right? Basically what happened is I did another pop-up show with another guy over in like Draper. And it was at like a witchy yoga studio. And all this dude did is he brought in speakers and he brought in chairs, and then he sold tickets to a comedy night. And I was like, fuck, I can do that.
This is too easy.
I can do that.
Yeah.
And so I had it kind of in my mind, and I was getting all ready. I was building a page on my website where I could sell it. And I was talking to, Biscotts to kind of see if they would want to host it. And then I came to one of our weekly networking meetings, which is where I've met you, Kambria. And that week you said, "Hey, everybody, 420 is like this Saturday. And that's a really great time to launch something if you want to launch something, because a planet is doing something."
Yeah. Jupiter and Uranus, they're hanging out together. It's beautiful energy. And that's usually where I leave it. I just tell people are like, I don't really give a shit what planets are doing what. Just tell me good day, not good day.
Yeah. I heard good day. And I was like, great, I'll give this a try. And you also had said something about how you were, because you're a real estate agent too.
Yes.
And you had said something about how you listed a house for $2 million $222,000. No, 200, all the way down,
Yes.
which I loved. I was like, that is so good because, and so I was like, I'm going to launch it on 420. And I made the tickets $22.22. And I sold 50% plus of tickets that day. And for the rest of the week, by the time the show started, I'd sold all of the tickets.
I literally got
Which-
chills when you said that. So I know this is like a comedy podcast, but like that shit is real. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you listen because people are like, and I'm like, try it for yourself. What's the worst that's going to happen? Nothing. Or the best that's going to happen is true magic, you know?
Right. It's true magic. And so I'm really excited to have you on. Do you want to maybe introduce yourself a little bit for people who maybe don't know you? And then let's talk about how to make magic.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So my name is Kambria Davis. And naturally on the podcast, I'm wearing my brand and logo, which is Kaya, stands for Come As You Are. It's actually the 5-year anniversary on Sunday. We're having a little anniversary party. But Kaya is just the name of, I guess, like the umbrella of the events and things that I do. So I have coined myself the Daybreak astrologer or the Nitebreak, Daybreak, whatever, you know, the local neighborhood astrologer.
Yeah.
So I do astrology events. I've held women's retreats. Um, I hold early morning meditations, just really anything that's going to be in energetics, um, while also trying to be a human that lives on this planet, right? So Kaya was founded 5 years ago. It was not like, oh, this is going to be a nice side hustle. You know, if people are interested, they can listen to my podcast, go through the beginning. But I do real estate and I'm a realtor and I totally immerse the woo woo and astrology into my real estate business. And then I play sound healing. I am a Reiki master. A lot of these like spiritual things I have done, but I just like to keep it simple and say, I work in the energetics. I've had a lot of experience with humans and my main kind of focus is astrology. And a big reason is because I've seen it work in my own life.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to talk to you. So I want to maybe frame this conversation by talking about why astrology is interesting to me, what sort of hooked me about astrology. And I remember growing up because we didn't talk about astrology in Mormonism very much, other than like it's
Talk about
satanic.
it.
But I do remember when I was a really little kid, I was easily bored. And so my mom had like this children's encyclopedia and I would just read that. And there was a section in it that was about the zodiac and the Greek myths. And all of those kind of landed in my brain. And I found them really fascinating.
Mhm.
And then, so they were always sort of kind of living in the back of my mind. And so I knew from the time I was a very young child that I was a Gemini. That was my sign. I didn't really know what that meant or anything beyond that, but I knew that. So fast forward to when I leave Mormonism. When I leave Mormonism, I sort of reject belief altogether. I'm like, fuck belief. It trafficked me. It abused me. It taught me to hate my body and to hate myself and to hate other humans. Fuck belief. I'm never believing in anything ever again. I will only accept things that are real, and that's science. And so I went on this huge science dive. I listened to hundreds of hours of courses on science courses from like the best professors all over the world. I learned about quantum physics, actual quantum physics, not what people call quantum physics. I learned about relativity. I learned about evolution. I learned about all of these different things. And it was fascinating to me. It was so, and it sort of grounded me down into earth.
Totally.
One of the last things that I learned was I read a book called Sapiens by a guy named Yuval Noah Harari. You kind of lit up when I said that.
Oh, I have chills again. I have not read that, but that is like the second or third time that book has entered into some kind of conversation with me in the last year. So I'm like, oh, and when that
Yeah.
happens, that's my cue to like follow.
kind of pay attention.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why I think what I think, because I think there's a really powerful connection here. And it's that the whole book, so Sapiens it's a history of humanity written from a secular perspective. So it's saying, look, humans, Homo sapiens, the species that we are, evolved out of a whole bunch of other species like us. Neanderthals, Denisovians, there were other hominid species, and we evolved out of them. All of the rest of them are dead. We survived. Why? That's the fundamental question that it asks. And his thesis is that it's not that we were stronger, because we weren't. Neanderthals were stronger than we were. And it's not because we were smarter necessarily, because other hominids have bigger brains than we do. What was different about us, he contends, is our ability to cooperate.
Cool.
Our ability as humans to cooperate means that it doesn't fucking matter that Neanderthals can kick the shit out of one of us, because that Neanderthal is going to be running down a blind canyon with 18 sapiens on the top throwing rocks at that motherfucker.
Right.
That is our superpower. And so then he takes it one step further and he asks, okay, if our superpower is cooperation, what enables us to cooperate? And what he says is that it's what he calls intersubjective entities, which are translated myths, right? Things that we believe in our minds that are not true, but we all believe them, right? Money, liberty, government, all of these things. Belief, our ability to believe fake things, is what allows us to cooperate on such a high level, which is what has enabled us to thrive on this planet.
Yeah.
So I learned that, and suddenly it felt like I had the solution to one of the real problems that I was facing, because what I was finding as I was really pursuing this secular, like science, only real things path, is that I felt really grounded in my life, but my life felt really sterile. I didn't feel very human. I didn't feel very, I just kind of felt like I'm like an atom. I'm like a thing, right? And suddenly when I read Sapiens, I sort of realized that maybe there was a way to sort of, that belief is a human tool, and that perhaps there are human tools of belief that are more effective than others. And so then I discovered astrology, and I was like, oh, astrology is a human tool of belief, of a made up thing that's tied to something actually real, and uses systems and repeated patterns to throw out mythically complex archetypes that allow us to help to understand our lives and to navigate the world in an effective way.
Totally. Yeah, and to say something on top of that is, I personally see astrology as a language and not a belief system, right?
Ooh, okay. Tell me about that.
Well, because you can't say from a standpoint of this, right? I can't be like, well, I don't believe in Spanish. Well, I don't understand Spanish, and I can't personally speak Spanish, but Spanish exists, right? So
Right.
realistically, in my personal experience, astrology is more of a language. And the more that I have studied the language, lived the language, right? So it's interesting because I lived in essentially El Paso, Texas for 2 years. I was based in New Mexico, but I lived there. I mean, nobody around me spoke Spanish when I was working. And I never learned it. People are like, you'll pick it up. Nope. I just literally never did. But I can't say that it doesn't exist. I knew that it existed. I watched people live that. So when we look at it that way, astrology is just another language. It's the language of the stars. And a lot of people don't understand the language, and that's fine. But it doesn't really mean that it doesn't exist. And this, I
Yeah.
mean, everything you're saying about that Sapien book and what you're saying, I'm over here like, oh, like this level of thought, this level of researching and education and seeking, which I will just tell you, both your sun and moon are in Gemini, but they're both in the ninth house, which is the house essentially in astrology named the house of God, which is so
Oh, interesting.
interesting. When I pulled that, because I pulled that just before a reading, because you told me your sun, moon, rising, but I needed to know the house, and it was weird. I'm getting chills. This is so funny because this is supposed to be a fucking hilarious podcast, but I'm like when I get chilled,
Yeah.
this is like confirmation shit for me.
Yeah, you're feeling the Holy Ghost right now. I get it.
I'm like, there he is, right? Oh yeah, of course. Total side note, but so I pulled it because remember I was like, "Do you know what house system?" And I was like, "Actually, just send me your."
Yeah.
But it's both your sun and moon because they're both in Gemini when the moment you were born. It's in the ninth house, and the ninth house is typically ruled by Sagittarius, but that are the seekers of truth. Both of your
Yeah.
twins are the house of seeking truth, right? And then how you were raised and your whole experience. So when you're telling me I felt grounded, but I felt disconnected, well, yeah, because you, if we want to listen to astrology and we want to just jump on that bandwagon, belief or not, the reality is that the essence of your soul wants to seek truth, also
Mhm.
knowing that there is not truth that exists. There is no single
Yeah.
truth.
That resonates with me so hard because so truth is like one of my core values, right? I have 3 core values and one of them is truth. And and I believe fundamentally that there is truth and that all truth is truth, right?
Yeah.
And what's weird to me, a little kind of wild to me about my connection to truth is that uh it was framed, it was forged in a worldview that is not the truth.
Yeah.
It is like so much not the truth. Like it's wild,
Yeah.
but it created something inside of me that is really focused on that. And what I love about astrology and what I've loved about the experience that I've had in sort of bringing together like this life and belief, right? The real world. I feel like it's science and religion. They're not different things. It's the same thing.
Sure.
And what it really is it's like astrology, right? Astrology is cool because you can go out and you can look at the stars
Totally.
and the stars will do the thing
Yep.
that we say that they will do. That is that. And so to sort of ground truth, that there's sort of idea truth and then there's real world truth, right? And the real world truth is I can point to fucking Sagittarius.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Yes.
It's right fucking there, right? And all of them are, right? They're all there. And then on that lattice of reality, let us exercise our beautiful mythic mind to then explore. And I love that you called it a language because that shifts it too. That sort of changes the relationship. Because part of what opened up astrology for me was realizing that there's not just a sun sign, there's other signs, right? So the sun is your ego. The moon is your emotions. Mercury is how you speak. Venus is how you love. Mars is how you fight, right? Speaking, loving, fighting, those are 3 essential things to understand about yourself as a human because you will speak and you will love and you will fight.
Yes.
And so I realized that it was this really complex and beautiful system that has sort of been generated. We don't even know how long, for thousands of years, it's been generated by humans.
Totally.
And what a lovely tool to use. And it's fucking connected us to the stars. And you know what else is true? That's where we fucking came from. We're literally, so all of these people who are like, well, you can't use the astrology because the stars don't affect who you are. Bullshit. We are stars.
Yes.
Now I get it, right? The reason why it's all doing that is because of certain things.
Sure.
Yeah. And those things are real and exist and we discovered them. And then on top of that lattice work, we did what we always do, which is we made beautiful myth.
Yes. We wrote stories and you're tracking back to early Egyptian times, Mesopotamia. This is not new. This is not the trend on TikTok. I mean, the true study, the true language of astrology goes back forever. And what is interesting is I find it ironic, right? I read a few articles around the eclipse. Somebody actually in Daybreak made a comment how they had made plans to go to somewhere in New York, I can't remember, months ago. And they didn't put a deposit down. And then a hotel chain canceled their trip. And she didn't understand why. They said, sorry, we can't accommodate you anymore. And she's like, that's never happened in 20 years with Marriott or whatever. And they said, sorry, we had to cancel. So she goes back on to try to rebook it. And I guess their trip for like $1,000 to stay somewhere for a week was up to $4,500. And she had no idea. So she called and they said, sorry, we can't accommodate you. This is the path of the total eclipse. So now these people are driving to see the lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse. They are buying the glass. You can't find glasses anywhere. And yet people are like, but astrology is not real. But we're all going to go watch the eclipse and we're all going to feel, I mean, same thing. So you talked about the sun. I mean, let alone you can really seriously talk to anybody who deals with human beings, teachers, first responders, people working in our correction system, people working in psych wards. Everybody who works with humans will tell you around a full moon, they overstaff, people get cuckoo, right?
Right.
But you're right. It's bullshit.
But astrology isn't real. And astrology isn't real. Come to my Easter service so that we can celebrate Jesus who rose from the dead.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which is the lovely language.
All the time, based again off the spring equinox and the first
right.
Right. Like, and I get it. Like, look, man, 10 years ago when I'm in a corporate America and I'm just right in the mix of things and people are like, you really should hire people with these traits. And you could actually look at their birth chart long before their resume and know if they're a good employee. I'd be like, what in the fuck are you talking about? Absolutely not. I would have been like the same way. And here I am probably 7 years deep into studying it. And I myself can sometimes be like, I don't know. And then I pull a chart like you, who I know you enough through the Daybreak community, but I don't know you super well. And I'm like double Gemini in the 9th house. And I'm like, you can't write that. This is not a belief system. It's just a language. And the more I study and learn the language, the easier and more clear it gets. And like you said earlier, it is a tool, just like anything. We have to be careful about the myths and stories and dogma and whatever, but it is a tool, and it's a tool that when used properly can actually really bring magic to your life.
So if someone wanted to start using, like learning the language of astrology and using it as a tool, where would you suggest that they start?
Well, I'm a Leo, so naturally I'm going to plug myself right here. It's going to track, but I would say get a birth chart reading, right? Literally have a birth chart reading and not online where somebody sends you 95 pages and you read through it, but get with an astrologer who does birth chart readings and have the moment of your birth read. When I do birth chart readings, I just start with people's main three: your sun, your moon, your rising. The next thing that I would do is go and learn the real archetypes of that. Not the funny videos that are on the social for clicks and likes, but the actual archetype, right? Because once you understand that Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, Taurus is the second, Gemini's third. One is cardinal, one is fixed, one is immutable, one is fire, one is earth, one is air. And then you start to understand, here's the basic things of Taurus, here are the basic things of Gemini. That allows you, because I have taught many people and have held classes in the past, and it's like, that is the best thing to do, is I would start with the archetype. What is an Aries and what are their traits? What is a Taurus traits, Gemini traits? And then you kind of have a lived experience. Then you meet somebody who's a Gemini and you're like, oh, yep, this tracks. He communicates, he shares, he's seeking knowledge, he's reading, right? He wants to learn. He's a comedian. These are all things. You kind of learn these basic traits. And then the next thing after that is to learn the planetary system. And so again, it's a language. So we start here and then we build and then we build and then we build.
So if I were to look at mine, so I'm Gemini, Gemini, right? Sun, moon, rising.
Yep.
Walk me through the sun, walk me through the moon, walk me through rising. I think that I understand sun and moon pretty well, but I'd love to hear it from you. I don't understand rising at all. People have tried to explain it to me. I don't get it.
Okay.
But I would love to have access to that as a tool.
Cool. So a couple things. So where, the sun, moon, rising is just where were these planets in the exact, this is why the exact birth time is very important because everything's rotating, right? So I like what you said earlier that there is myth, but there is science. I mean, hopefully most of us understand we're on a round planet moving through the solar system with other planets circling and it all moves. We're not stationary ever. So that exact birth time, your sun, you said, is your ego. I like to see it really as your purpose. The sun is your purpose and how you shine in this world. So when you're like, I'm a Gemini and I'm a comedian, I'm like, absolutely, fuck yeah, exactly where you want to be, right? If somebody was a Gemini and they worked in a warehouse with headphones and never spoke to somebody all day, they go 9 to 5 every day. They're in no human contact. I automatically know that person is not shining. They're probably very depressed. They're feeling super not great about their life, right? So your sun is your purpose. Think of the sun with sunshine. So how
Yeah.
to shine in the world. Your moon is your physical and emotional needs. You talked about it's your emotions, but it's really your physical and emotional needs. So when people are like, I took the 5 love languages, or when people are like, hey, I'm dating somebody, I don't care about your 2 moon signs. I want to know, or your 2 sun. Your moon sign is important. These are needs. So in order for us to feel fulfilled in our human nature, the moon is our physical and emotional needs. And the moon is really who we are behind closed doors. Our sun, again, how are we shining in the world? Okay. Now the rising is confusing because the sun obviously travels, in a 24-hour stint. Every 2.5 hours, it crosses each zodiac sign. So that your rising is the path you take to get to your sun sign.
Okay. What does that mean? What does that mean astrologically? Like what is happening? What is happening? What is rising?
So wherever the sun rose on the east, right? The eastern horizon, where was it crossing above or below the horizon the moment you were born?
Oh.
Traverse
Okay.
zodiac signs in one day, right? So if you were born at, I can't remember, 1 something in the afternoon, but like at 3, it's now moved into Cancer, right? And then at 5 something, now it's moved to Leo. And so the rising sign, it is confusing, but it's really important because so even though you are double Gemini and you have a shit ton of air in your chart, see, that's another thing. A lot of astrologers and people online, they're talking a lot about the zodiac actual sign, which is great. But you have 9 placements, like of all the planets, right? The sun, moon, Mercury, Mars, all that, right? All the way to Pluto, the nodes, which are your eclipse, like your points, right? Your eclipse points, your midheaven, anything big, you have 9 placements in air. Okay.
Do you want to know where I'm recording this from right now?
Where?
I'm 4 stories above the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like,
on the roof of my townhouse.
right. And here's the thing. You said something about what did you say? Something about I don't know, your mom when you're younger. And
Oh yeah, she had a bunch of like like children's encyclopedias.
yeah.
And I just read all of them.
You probably just your whole life are just bored. Let's go. Let's start this new thing. I want to start that new thing. Here's my idea. The other thing too, I'll just have it right here. Like, cause I want to get this right. You had a ton of cardinal energy. 9. Oh, like you have 7 air placements, but 9 cardinal. Cardinal signs are the ones that start a season. So you are a big idea haver. So like, here's right. Like probably, I don't know, either family or spouses or lovers or whatever, probably like, hey, like I love all the ideas, but it's like a little too much, right? Like,
Yeah, totally.
tone it down. You start 100 and you only finish 12 and it's so annoying, right?
Yeah. You have pegged me. That is exact. I have So in fact, if you were to look in my one example might be my TikTok drafts, right? So my TikTok drafts, I probably have over 500.
Yeah. Well, you have 9 cardinals. So cardinal sign plate, like cardinal energy, that's any placement that starts a season. Because here's another thing without giving a whole astrology lesson, but astrology governs our seasons. So a
Yeah.
cardinal sign, Aries, started spring. Taurus is fixed in the middle of spring, and Gemini transitions us. So when somebody has 9 cardinal placements, asking them to have this routine life, same thing over and over every day, literally is asking them not to breathe air.
Thank you so much.
And I always say there's 2 sides. So, like, there's a lot of validation in astrology because you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God. And then you know that about yourself. Okay, cool. You are not ever going to be, from an astrology standpoint, you are not ever going to be the guy that just has like 2 or 3 projects. You are going to be the double digit project guy. And then part of knowing that is like, at some point, it's maybe instead of doing like 20 projects, you try to stay like that 12. Because saying
Yeah.
no to the other 8 is actually going to help you bring to life the 12 that you really want to be, you know?
Which is what I really love about astrology. Another thing is what you just did there, which is that astrology is about celebrating the entire human. There's no bad, there's just information,
It is all
right? So
information.
it's not, I haven't sinned because I don't finish projects, but, right? But that's something for my consciousness to be aware of driving this vehicle that I'm in, because you're right. I start so many things. There are so many things that I've started that I have not finished.
Yep,
And some of those things need to get finished.
totally.
And more of those things could get finished if I acknowledged that I start a lot of things and then intentionally drilled down and said, okay, I'm going to be the 12 project guy, but these are the 12 projects I'm actually going to do.
Totally. And this is where astrology gets even better because then you know if you're a great starter, you find a business partner or a partner who is more fixed energy. I have 8 fixed placement, and those are the ones that normally will continue a project. There's the ones that will dig in. They will stick with something because they're fixed, right? They're right in the heart of it. So those are the people that help finish those projects. So understanding that you're the starter means cool. When I'm looking for partnership, business partnership, friendship, whatever, right? Looking for that person who has that long-term focus that can help you or take over the project and finish it. But it makes sense
Yeah.
to me, again, seeing when I pulled, I'm just laughing because I don't know you, but I know a little bit about you. And it's like, you have these ideas. We want to do this. We're going to start this. I'm going to do the night break comedy. I'm going to do this. And I'm like, "Ah," right. And then
Yeah, that's just me moving through life.
that's how you operate. So when we understand that, right? So birth chart readings are powerful for couples. They're powerful for individuals. They're powerful for a parent to child. Because as a parent, if you know, hey, I got a double Gemini and that kid is going to be reading and learning and they need to be intellectually stimulated all the freaking time or they're going to be bored out of their mind. And I got to be coming up and supporting their projects. If, as a child, which, I'm going to make an assumption, probably a lot of your ideas may or may not have been shut down because you wanted to start so much and just only knowing a little bit about how you were raised. But
Yeah.
that's the thing is you need the freedom because it's also in the 9th house. You need the freedom to explore, to seek. Philosophical study is a big part for you. And then all that air. So you have air and cardinal. So you got to be talking all the time and you got to be starting new shit. And if you're not, you are not feeling good.
I'm not feeling good. And that's true. And I love too that it's not just me, right? What you said about now build a team, right? And once you know who you are, then you know what you need.
Yep.
And that bring like there's another piece of the astrology puzzle that I love, which I when I first observed it, right? And I thought about like when I realized what it really was, which was we've just assigned certain times of the year to stars.
Yeah.
Right. That's the genius of what we did.
Totally.
Is that which is fucking brilliant.
Yes. Yes.
right? We don't fully acknowledge and understand as modern humans what that meant was we were walking around looking at the stars. And after years of that, we were like, that one keeps coming back.
Yep.
And
Cycle.
it's all that.
Cycle.
It's this cycle,
Yeah.
right? We start to learn the cycle. And then what we start to do is we start to assign values to those cycles. We start to say, and I think about that a lot as a Gemini, right? Because the Gemini energy, the way that I understand Gemini is very, very, very like, oh, what are we, right? That's that energy.
Yes.
And it makes sense to me because for thousands of years, anyone born in Gemini was born during one of the best times of the year.
Totally.
It was warm. It was happy. Like there was plenty of food.
Yep.
Like the formative experiences of my brain were late spring and early summer, which is that creates a certain kind of human,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And someone who's Aquarius is born in the middle of fucking winter.
Yes.
And that creates a certain kind of human. So we're creating these different kinds of humans, but then what astrology does is it says, okay, let's turn these humans into a tribe. Because what we need, I think about like one of my kids is a Libra. And I think about Libra as Libra's like in the fall and it scales.
Yep.
And so when I think about the archetype of Libra, I think, oh, it's autumn time when we've harvested. You know what would be really valuable to a tribe around harvest time? A bunch of people who are obsessed with fairness. A bunch of people who like to get out scales and measure everything and then say, here's your winter provisions. Here's your winter provisions, right? You don't want to put me in charge of dividing up the food at winter time because do you know what I'll do? I'll be like, guys, we could have the sickest party.
Yeah.
We could have the sickest party right now. And it would be, and then we would all die.
Yes.
And so it's actually kind of creating all of these humans that you need. You need all of that. You need a Gemini. Society needs Geminis because what we do is we pollinate. We bounce around to everyone and talk to all of them and gather all the ideas. I know all of the things, not all of the things, but I know a lot of the things. I can't do things with most of the things that I know. But if you happen to bump into me at the right moment and tell me exactly the thing that you need, somewhere in here, if it's an idea, I probably have it.
Yep.
I just got to go find it, right?
Yeah. The archetype of Gemini that I say when I teach about Gemini is because Gemini and Sagittarius are sister signs. They're opposite. Sag is the 9th sign, which covers the 9th house. So you do have this really cool balance thing going on. But Geminis know a little bit about everything.
Yes.
They know a little bit about everything. And Sagittarians know a lot about a few things. So think about it. You went down this rabbit hole. That's where you can be a double. It's like if you just talk to somebody like double Gemini, it's so weird that you went down this whole secular thing, but not really because you went down the secular path because you have an influence. I call it a jacket of Sagittarius because you have your moon and sun are both in the 9th house.
So talk to me about houses. I don't understand. And I would love to understand what they are astrologically, because that's what I find is knowing. As soon as I knew what the rising was, I'm like, oh, I get it. It's the point when I'm still not sure that I understand the myth of rising. So we could come to that in a bit, but I want to know about houses because I don't understand.
I'll jump to houses because I really because a lot of people struggle with rising. And I don't want to miss out on this. Okay. Because the houses is kind of like a few layers down and that can get confusing, but with the rising. So yeah, it's what was it moving through in that 2.5 hour window for 24 hours? The rising sign. So like I said, so we live in Daybreak. Let's just say the airport. We could take Bacchus, Bangerter, Mountain View. We could go down to 90th. We could go 114th. There's all these routes, but we still get to the airport. So your rising sign is the route, basically the road you take to become your purpose, your sun. So you have a Libra rising.
Oh my God.
So here's what's funny. This is like, I can write this shit. Earlier, you talked about the Nitebreak comedy You're like, I know it's funny because it's not about me. You were talking about how you wanted to provide this equal opportunity to
Yeah.
comedians. You're a Libra rising. So through this equal opportunity, you are getting to your point, which is your sun sign. Your purpose is to be that pollinator, be that networker, be that communicative source, right? The person who speaks what most will not speak. And you have a
Yeah.
Geminis are very powerful because Geminis convince Taurus. It is fixed earth. So everybody knows Taurus is the most, oh man, Taurus is the most stubborn, immovable sign in the zodiac. And Gemini, this is their power. They come in and they say, hey, Taurus, you have to let go of spring. We have to move into summer. So Gemini has the power to take the most stubborn, most fixed earth sign in the zodiac and let Taurus let go of spring. So that's what you do. So, but you do it through the path, if you will, the road, the route of a Libra, which is value system, harmony, equality, and balance.
Yeah. That is fascinating to me because that is so the one I have a lot of Tauruses in my life that I have problems with.
Never tell a Taurus what to do, and you're a Gemini. You must
And
tell people what to do.
yeah, I love look, I love that's true. I love telling people what to do. And I'm only loosely attached to what I tell them to do.
Totally, because you guys really don't give a shit. Yeah.
Right. Cause like
I know.
I'll tell you what I think is the best thing for you to do right now. It's this thing.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Well, I don't care. Fucking if you could do it, you could not do it, whatever.
Totally.
But that Libra, so that Libra is fascinating to me because it 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 sort of seen it as the route to my purpose, right? Because one of the things that I've done with comedy, you'll see this tonight. You're when we because what I've done with comedy is right is I've said I'm going to do this comedy, right? I'm going to be this. I'm going to be this purpose, but the vehicle that I'm using is Mormon polygamy, and the way that I'm doing that is I partner with this nonprofit and I promote them every show. Every show is really there's part of it which is I'm just doing my thing, I'm having fun, but there's also this justice part of it to it, and that's also like part of the joke of me being the true prophet of Mormonism is that what I tell people is, look, if you make me the prophet, if you vote for me for prophet, which I'm currently running for prophet of Mormonism, and I will until I win. If you vote for me for prophet of Mormonism, then I will take all of the money that Mormonism made and I will distribute it back to the people that it was stolen from.
Correct.
Because that's what you should fucking do with money that you take from people by lying to them.
Right.
You should give it back to them.
So with that, you're like, I have a hard time understand rising. That is your rising sign. That is where Libra comes into play. And take this one step further. The reason why people's rising signs are so important is whatever planet governs that sign, Venus rules Libra. That is kind of what we call your chart ruler. This is the thing with astrology is, again, it's so layered as we are as human beings. You and I, being that I have a shit ton of fixed fire and you have a ton of cardinal air, we can do this. We literally could probably roll this podcast for like 3 fucking hours, would be fine.
Oh, easily.
So you throw somebody on there with a lot of earth or water, and that will just deplete them, right? So, but your chart ruler is also Venus. And so values, which is funny because you literally said, I have 3 key values, right?
I did.
3 values. You literally used the word value. Did you use the word value?
Yeah. Yeah. I have 3 core values.
That's what it was. Core. You have 3 core values. Venus is not only just love, it is love, but it's actually what we value. So
Mm.
the funny thing about all of that, right? We did not, just so everyone knows, we did not fucking plan this. We don't have a script, but you are ruled by Venus. So there's this, even though you're this funny, hilarious, super well spoken, sarcastic jokester, you have this really beautiful balance about you, this loving, energetic presence because you are
Yeah.
ruled by Venus. And like you said, a Gemini, let's say it was Gemini and your rising was a fire sign. That is going to be far more assertive, far more aggressive. Your message probably, you kind of talked about the guy that came and there's, even though you make jokes, there's still this level of appreciation and bridge building, which is
Yeah.
able to do because your rising is Libra and you're ruled by Venus.
I love that so much as a language to understand myself because it get like so I'm on a mission of justice,
Yep.
right? I demand that justice be given to the people that were wronged, to my people. I demand that. And I there's also the reason that I demand that is because I love these people.
Yes.
Right? I love all of these humans, all of these beautiful, repressed, extorted humans.
Yeah.
And so when I see someone who's there, right? I'm like, look, I'm gonna make fun of you like tonight. Tonight at our comedy show, we're going to have an active Mormon comedian
Right.
for the first time ever. I'm very excited. She's gonna do, and she's super funny.
Yeah.
And again,
Can't
in
wait.
order to get me to love you, all you have to be is funny.
Totally.
And I will love you for forever. And she's going to be on there. And I hope that she makes fun of us for leaving the church. And I intend to make fun of her for staying in the church. But the reason that I feel like I can, because I really do feel like I can say anything to anyone
Yes.
because I love everyone.
Yes. And I just had to pull that up because do you know where your Mercury is?
It's in Taurus, isn't it?
is. And then
Yeah.
do you know where your Venus and your Mars are?
Cancer.
Cancer and Cancer.
Cancer and Cancer. Yeah.
Your fight planet, which really is so Mars is how you really take action, right? It's not just fight,
Yeah.
it's war, but it's like what inspires you. So if somebody's gonna like start a fucking nonprofit, I want to see their Mars. What moves them? Cancer, motherly energy, love, emotion. Like
Look, I have pigtails right now.
totally.
I'm a giant dude mom.
Yeah. You are a dude mom. And most of your stuff, like you and I, we could come back again, but most of your placements reside in the 9th house and the 10th house, which is philosophical truth seeking. And then it's how do you show up in your community? The 10th house.
Here I am.
There you are.
Like this.
What is your career? How are you showing up in the neighborhood and the community? What is your work life? And it's like, it's all mixed, right? Your work
Yeah.
is your community is your work, those things. So it's just,
Mm.
even if we made it up, at least it feels good and we're laughing about it and it gives us a whole shit ton of validation,
Right. What it really does, what's cool about this, and this is why I would really recommend, I love that you said this too, that the way that people should start is by going to someone and getting a reading. Cause I would really recommend that too. Cause what I've found, I've had one other person also do the reading. The first person that did a reading with me, I sat with them and I talked with them. And this reading has been like super, like really insightful. And what it's done is it's given me tools, right? So now when I think about, I'm like, cause I know that I'm community minded. Of course I am, right? That's all I've been doing for the last 6 months. I know that I care about truth and God, right? I'm pretending to be a prophet who translated the real golden plate that I found at Burning Man into a scriptural text from God that God talks in. And God is very angry at the people who started Mormonism.
Yeah.
He thinks that he's like, look, how dare you speak in my name, right? So all of those things that's part of my world. And to be able to sort of see that reflected in a chart that then I can then use and be like, okay, let's be intentional about this. How am I? Community is important to me. Okay, obviously, yeah, I've got these 10th house placements. How am I? And then to be able to assign those, all of those, it's such a useful tool, but it came through this dialogue. And I think that's actually really important in the astrological journey, because that's how it would have been done when we invented astrology the first time, right? Is that we didn't have computers. We didn't have, someone had to write your birth chart down when you were born.
Yeah.
Because there was never going to be another one.
Yep.
And so they wrote it down when you were born, and then they talked with you about it. You would examine, you'd look at it, right? You'd come up, you'd bump up into a difficult thing in your life, right? Like you're saying right now, there's a Taurus in my life that's causing mayhem. Okay, great. Now I've got a tool. I can be like, okay, well, I can tell this Taurus what to do, but I got to do it. I got to do it in Libra, right? And that now shifts the way that I'm going to try to show up there.
And what I would say, I invite you to not ever tell the Taurus what to do, but you find a way for the Taurus to believe that the thing that they are going to do was their idea.
Yep. I'm going to have to, fortunately, I'm very tricksy.
Well, like I was saying earlier, the only person who could ever convince Taurus to give up spring was a Gemini, right? So there is this, so understanding that, right? That's why I say get a birth chart, because when you have, I have read total strangers' charts. I actually haven't read, my girlfriend even the other day was like, you have never read my chart. And I'm like, well, I'm talking about your chart like 24/7. She's like, yeah, but you've never read it. And I'm like, cool, go to work and then call me. We'll have an actual birth chart reading, because I do them over the phone, because most people retain the most there. But the way, at least people have, the feedback I have gotten is thank you, because now I can use it. Like, I'm passionate about people understanding astrology from a standpoint that you can use it when you are, working with your son or working with this difficult Taurus. Or for me, when I do real estate, I pull my clients' birth chart where I just find out, like, when were they born? Are they a fire sign? Are they earth? Are they air? And then like, how am I going to adjust to help them, right? So, and then knowing these things about ourselves, if you know, cool, the reason why you can say the things you do and get away with it, a lot of that has to do with your Libra rising, and you have Venus and Mars in Cancer. So it does come from more of a balanced, loving place. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say those things, I have a shit ton of fire, and then it just comes off really too much. And people are like, you're an asshole. And I'm like, wait, what? That's not about that. Right. But fire, like, right? So,
right. And what I love about astrology, again, is we need that fire.
Yes. Yep.
Right? Like, we need that fire, and we need that water,
Yep.
and we need that air, and we need that earth, right? We all need to just emote and express and be what we are, because that actually, that ends up flowing really well.
What's powerful too is when, again, I do duo readings for parents or children or couples or even people, and they're kind of at a crossroads. You can absolutely take astrology, and, we talked about this big, huge placement of Pluto being an Aquarius and the French Revolution and what's happening in the world. That include, whatever. I'm going to leave that to the side, and it's going to retrograde back into Capricorn in the weeks before the United States presidential election. So whatever, you can totally use it. How I read is, especially for the first few readings, because I'll have people call me back, right? 3-4 months. I believe in trying to teach people so that they can go live this way, but we layer it. So like today, we talked a lot about your sun, moon, rising. If we were to have another reading in a few months, then we dive a little bit more into like your Mercury, your Venus, your Mars, your personal planets, and how those. Because as you go out and you start to see that, you're like, "Ooh, this is coming out," or I can see that about myself. Eventually down the road, you will know yourself well enough, and you'll start to track your own cycles and patterns, because astrology can be used for that. I don't read it that way. I want people to, like, let's strip away the conditioning. Let's strip away the shit we've been through. Let's strip away a lot of the trauma. And it's like reminding people who they are at the soul level of how we're built.
Mhm.
And then we have this beautiful understanding too, right? We start to, I never have more compassion or empathy for humans than I do when I'm reading a birth chart. Because I'm like, oh, okay,
Mm.
that's why they do what they do. And to ask them to not, somebody with nine cardinal placements, to ask you to not be constantly coming up with new ideas and new ways of doing things, or a new comedy show, or a way to do Daybreak this way or that way, that is literally asking you to not to be who you are. And that's not fair.
Yeah. I love that, and I love to that just reminds me of what you said right at the beginning, which is this is a language, right? It's a language.
Yep.
It takes time to learn a language, right? We become skilled through repetition, through practice. Um, this was such a fantastic conversation. Um, if someone wanted to continue a conversation with you about astrology, where would they find you?
So Instagram, so I have this right here. Kaya Community is both with K's because I spell my name with a K. So Instagram is Kaya underscore community on Instagram, or kayacommunity.com is the website. You can book a reading there, follow us on Instagram. Um, and then I kind of talked to you about starting to do astrology nights here in Daybreak. So
Yeah, tell me about astrology night and daybreak.
yeah, again, I'm really passionate about people having this as a tool. So in Taurus season, so this is another thing. Taurus season, just in general, is a great season to stick to what you started in Aries season, right?
Mm.
Gemini season's coming up. So it's like I would do it what's called Gemini night. So people come, Biscotts, get a coffee, hang out, and I'm going to talk about the archetype of Gemini and what that means and how to deal with a Gemini, how to work with them, what makes them happy, what pisses them off, and then also how the energy affects us. So Gemini season, give you this little tidbit, is the best season to market ourselves because Geminis are the greatest marketers, right?
That's true.
You know. So
I
you have a new business, you're launching a book, or you're like, hey, I'm kind of, we're emerging from winter, and Gemini season really is the season to market your stuff. Be your own best marketer. So talking,
I can't I can't wait for that night.
yeah,
Do you know when that's going to be yet, or it's just gonna be in Gemini season?
it will be in Gemini season, and I will plan it. And again, if people follow us on Instagram and follow the website, and definitely something that's coming up for me is being a little bit clearer about the event. So I don't have I have decent amount of cardinal placements, right? But we'll put that out and then we'll just say it. And then in Cancer season will be the same thing. What is Cancer season? Leo.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm so excited for that. And then you also have, because this is airing on today on Sunday.
Okay.
You also have an event today, don't you?
Yes. Tonight is the 5-year anniversary of Kaya being in existence. 5 years ago on 5/5 was the first like Women's Day of Healing. And I had speakers. We did energy work, and it was so profound. So yeah, it's just been in existence for 5 years, and a lot of beautiful community events have happened. So we're having that at 5:55 at Biscotts as well. Just come hang out, come meet cool people. We're doing some giveaways. And then on May 12th, which is Mother's Day, I'm doing what's called a sadhana. It's a early morning meditation, specifically starts in the dark. So that by the time it finishes, it is the sun has been is up. And the whole point is to greet the sun before the sun greets you. And it's a very personal
Mm.
kind of process. But I'll be doing that at a studio in Sandy on Mother's Day. That's also going to be listed on our Instagram and website. And that's a really powerful thing too. So come to either one of those.
I'm going to be at the anniversary party.
Yeah.
To Biscotts.
Cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have so much fun. So definitely come out, y'all. And then if you are a local person here in Daybreak and you want to get in on this Nitebreak comedy, you can go to my website, thefreshkingbenjamin.com. And in the top, there will be a little menu item that will say Nitebreak comedy, and you can click on that, and then you can buy tickets. And those tickets are going to sell out because
They did. They sold out fast. And
they sold out fast.
Yeah.
And we're only doing 4 shows in May. So there are only 4 chances to come and see comedy in your local community right here in Daybreak in May. And if you don't get it, then someone else will. And then you'll be super sad, which would be so soul crushing for you to be sad in this beautiful May weather that we're having. So come out to that.
agreed.
Cambria, thank you so much for coming on. And everybody, stay safe out there.